Keep on the Borderlands is one of those old favorites, so drenched in nostalgia. So I feel like just a part of my youth. I remember I can smell what it smelled like. I can just close my eyes and just remember myself just continually pulling it out of the basic box to read and read through again and just look at the pictures. It's just one of those. Obviously there's a generation of players of this game, which I'm one, who just cut their teeth on this module on Isle of Dread, which I covered in an earlier read-along. It's just one of those things of our youth. I probably can't really commit a critical eye to it per se because I'm just so close to it. But let's get into it. I'm going to skip a bunch of stuff just because I do want to kind of keep this one lean and mean, and I'm going to I want to get to the meat of it as fast as I can. So the stuff that's not, I'm not going to get into a lot of the intro or sort of background material. I think it kind of speaks for itself. This is an intro adventure. In the adventure, they talk about it being at the right beyond a realm, and they put, realm with a capital R, but it's an unnamed a place. This takes place, as one might imagine, in an area that they're calling Borderlands, which is essentially have some civilized areas, in this case the keep being a sort of stronghold, and then beyond the keep, essentially a wild area, untamed wilderness with strange individuals and creatures, and of course this area called the Caves of Chaos that is the subject of all sorts of rumors, dark or otherwise. And of course, those are the caves in the picture on the cover, or at least that's hinted at in the picture of the cover, the hills that orcs, and I guess it's just orcs, right? I see orcs. I don't see other creatures. Orcs, and there are also goblins and kobolds and other things are all hanging out. There are a few other things as well that are skulking about in the wilderness, but the main thrust is that using the keep as a base, that the party will go and sortie to the Caves of Chaos to make their fortunes. It very much has the classic setup of, you arrive at a place and you get settled and you figure out what's going on, and you get your rumor tables and you get your gear, you go to the tavern, and then you set out. And I think it's kind of understood that as an adventuring party, you will be on board with that kind of goal. This is not an adventure where you're trying to figure out how this matches up with your backstory, what kind of character goals you have. This is really all about, hey, we're going out to get loot, and you're looking for, whether it's talking to people or whether you got rumors that were given to you as part of the background of this. It's all about, how can I make my name? How can I get my loot, get fame? And let's go do that. And you're supposed to be led to the Caves of Chaos. Now, one of the interesting things is this was with the basic set. The expert set had the rules, the actual rules for wilderness travel and hex crawling. So the map here actually uses squares for the overland travel, and it's not very detailed. The caves and the keep are basically within a day's travel of each other, so you can get back and forth fairly easily. Obviously, depending on what time of day you leave, you may need to camp overnight, but you can basically get there. It may even be half a day. I don't know exactly. I'd have to look it up. I'd have to count squares, and I forget exactly what size. I think it's like 100 yards or something per square, and I don't know my yards to miles to whatever, so I'd have to do that math, but I think you can get there in less than a day or about a day or something like that. This may be the first, or at least the earliest, where they're really setting up the keep or village as a base of operations to which you go sorties, and you come back to the keep, do your housekeeping. If you need people healed, try to get them healed. If you have stuff to sell it. You have to buy stuff, you buy. Then you go back out to the dungeon. You do the dungeon for as long as you can. You kind of go back and forth, and that's the rhythm of the module, and that's sort of represents a kind of early way of playing where you have, and there are several modules like this, but this may be the first one of those. I think there's Horror on the Hill is also similar, in which case you have I think at that point, that one's called Guido's Fort, I think, but there's another sort of keep area. There's a natural barrier between it and the wilderness. I believe it's a river, and then on the other river is this area you're going to, and you're sort of shuttling back and forth, going like that. So that's kind of the rhythm you're supposed to be getting into. The keep is set up as basically a fairly safe place. The people don't have names because I think they thought, well, if you need names, you can name them. This module, like many ones, will put things out there for you as the GM to fill in. I think that's kind of gone out of fashion. I think people see it now as being just lazy or sloppy or just incomplete, whereas back then, and I think they position it here as well, is that this is supposed to slot into your world, or in this case, and I think also when, was it B1 Into the Unknown, was positioning it as kind of a teaching experience, as, hey, you're learning how to do this. So we're not going to fill in all the rooms because we want you to fill in some of the rooms. And in this case, we're not going to name the realm. We're not going to name all these individuals because we want you to give them names that you want, because this may slot somewhere in a world that you're going to create. You name it what you want to name it. You name this area what you want to name this area. It really only matters that we're on the outskirts of civilization. There's a bunch of wilderness that's unexplored or at least untamed on one side, and that you're doing this, you're delving into it. That's really the important part. Where that wilderness is, what all these things are, that's kind of for you to figure out. I will read through a couple of the rumors just because it's always good to know what kind of rumors they want to give you. I'm just going to read through a few of them. A merchant imprisoned in the caves will reward his rescuers. There you go. That's something to shoot for. Let's see. An ogre sometimes helps the cave dwellers. There might be a magic wand lost in there. The big dogmen live very high in the caves. There are hordes of tiny dogmen in the lower caves. Lizard men live in the marshes. An elf once disappeared. There's a mad hermit. There's more than one tribe of orcs within the caves. Well, there you go. So you got some good stuff. Well, I'm just going to kind of breeze through these areas of the keep because they're not particularly important for our purposes, but it's a village. It's a village that is protected by walls and by a fairly vigilant guards and military and populace. We can perceive it as a fairly safe place, assuming we're not the troublemakers. And it's got everything we need. Jewel merchants, tavern, an inn, a Fletcher, a smith, kind of all that stuff. We can come, we can sleep in beds, we can equip and retool. We maybe get some healing by a priest, get supplies, all that stuff. And the Castellan's kind of interesting because it's another element of intrigue within the keep. In the keep, you're really only allowed access to these outer areas to get to the access to the inner areas, which is basically just means you get access to the Castellan himself or herself. And what that can do, if you can get access to them, is you can basically ask them for military assistance. In order to do that, you kind of have to perform some deed for the keep. Basically it's a payoff, right? You can give them gold. I think they say in here 1,000 or 1,100 gold pieces will do it, or a magic item or something else, or some really great trophy. If you deliver it and hand it off, then you can get a meet and greet with the Castellan. If you don't mess that up, the Castellan will give you some kind of test, and the test is not defined. They basically say, as a GM, hey, look somewhere on the map, find something that's kind of within the player's range that they can do, but difficult. But, don't say go to the Ancient Dragon, and then make that a goal for the Castellan. Then if they do that, they come back, then they kind of get the keys to the city. They get to go into the inner part of the keep, and then they can ask the Castellan for favors, which I think is mostly about, hey, we need backup, and the Castellan will presumably help them out. Of course, the main thing we're interested in as the adventure is what's happening outside the keep. Again, I'm going to breeze through the outside stuff. There's really not that much. They need to have a bit of a sense of scale, right? You couldn't have the Caves of Chaos right on top of the keep. Otherwise, it just wouldn't make sense. You just can't have those forces right next to each other. So there has to be some distance. But they don't want it to be too dangerous, because then your low-level characters, we don't have all the wilderness rules anyway, since they've saved that for the expert set. So they want to kind of keep it simple, but they know that you might go wandering around. You might not know where the caves are, so you got to try to find them, which means you're wandering around the map. So you don't want it to be just totally empty and boring, so you got to throw some stuff in there. So there's a mound of lizardmen that you can hit. There's some spiders. There's a raider camp. And you look at the stuff like the raider camp, it's got a lot of people in there. If you're looking at, you're going out with your party of 4 or 5, maybe even 7, depending on how many you have in your party, if you've picked up any hirelings, whatnot, maybe you've bought some mercs with you. But the raider camp has 12 people in it. 8 spearmen, 2 bowmen, a lieutenant, and a leader. So it's no joke. And this just highlights that necessity to really take things carefully in this kind of game, because you hit that the wrong way, you get surprised, you end up, you get a bad reaction and you don't get to act first. You could easily be a arrow pincushion before you have a chance to do anything. So the impetus is really on you to try to, as much as you can, make sure that you're hitting those encounters as much in your favor as possible. And that often might mean not fighting them at all. If they will take a ransom or a fee to let you pass, maybe do that. Maybe you sneak around them. Maybe you make them some other kind of deal. Maybe you could even employ them. Who knows? But you don't want to just stumble along into these and blunder in, because otherwise you're going to have a tough time. There's a mad hermit that has a couple of magic items. +1 dagger, potion of invisibility, wearing a ring of protection. He's a crazy guy. You could try to have him tag along with you, but he'll stab you in the back when he gets a chance. He's got a mountain lion pet. They put pet in quotes, but the mountain lion seems to pretty much act as a pet, so I guess it really is his pet. I mean, it seems to suggest it'll come when it calls him. It doesn't attack the hermit, so I don't know. It's as good as my cats will do for me. Better. My cats won't come. I have a cat sleeping right next to me right now that you can't see, but maybe you can hear him snoring slightly. But he's not coming for me if I call him. Yeah, no, he's not coming. So that mountain lion's already a better pet than I've gotten. I love my pets. Right, Bruce? You're good? All right. And we're at the caves. All right, easy peasy, bamsy beezy. But, the caves, it's an interesting area. You're going to come up into essentially a ravine. It's like this crazy, just horrible woods full of things that are pricking you and holding you back and tearing at your clothes. And you're kind of going to pop out into a clearing. And here is this ravine with hills forming sort of a horseshoe kind of shape. You can see bits of bone in the ground. That's a mixture of humanoid and animal and who knows what else. And you can see all the caves dotting along these different levels of the ravines. The walls of the ravine go up at different levels. There are different caves. Some of them are low, kind of ground level. Some of them are higher. There's some interesting options that they give you. One is that potentially the tribes of these monsters could ransom player characters. So they could take them prisoner, ransom them for money. They would let one player go back to the keep to try to get funds to free them and then free them. I think the best part of that, besides the fact that you're just capturing players and holding it for ransom is always fun, but that they'll actually gain reputation and gain prestige amongst their own peoples through doing this. If you like the kind of system from, Shadows of Mordor, those kind of action Lord of the Rings type games, here's that system. If you have monsters who are able to successfully do that, they will gain rep, they will get more members, and you have extra fodder to make villains or little mini bosses or however, just make interesting characters with these monsters. And look, nothing's going to get the players goat more than if they were bested by a creature. Man, that's going to make them want to go back in there and kick that creature's butt. If they, if you're the halfling and you learn that the goblin from the cave that knocked you out and you had to pay him 20 gold to let you go is now calling himself the halfling smasher, I know I would be fired up to get back at that goblin. You know, first it was just business. Now it's personal. They also mentioned that you could bring out the alliances and warfare between these different tribes if you wanted to do something a little bit like A Fistful of Dollars or Romeo's Bleeding. You're playing both sides against the middle. That's also an option. So that's something they have there. This is a non-combat option. This is, can you go in there and use your wiliness, use your diplomacy and your smooth talking to try to get, you know, maybe get some of these factions to fight each other, or if they're already fighting each other, to up the ante, get involved. It's another method. It also mentions about monsters learning from experience, which is key. Part of it they mention is kind of that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If the players are using a tactic, the monsters should learn it. If it's that good, they should use it too. They mention an example of using flaming oil. The party's using flaming oil to success. Why shouldn't monsters figure out to use flaming oil as well? If the party runs away a lot, then maybe the monsters will try to use that as advantage by trying to trick the party into running away. That kind of thing, which is good stuff. Now getting into the actual encounter areas, we have a Kobold Lair. Inside's a pit trap somewhere in there. They have a guard room. They've got some giant rats. And here's the map of the wilderness area. Let's see. Okay, so it is 100 yards per square, as I was looking at before. Let's see. So the keep is 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to count those out, but I would guess, I don't know. Better part of a day to get through there? I don't know, but I don't know my yards I'm lazy. But there you have it. If you wanted to see this little bit of the wilderness, and remember, they don't name anything. And maybe you think that's a good thing. Maybe it's not, right? The keep is not even named. It's just the keep. And you can see they kind of, as they developed more the Greyhawk setting and other settings, you get later on, they have, when you do, the Haunting on the Hill, it's, Guido's Fort. So they start to kind of name it. It's just really the Cave of the Unknown, the Caves of Chaos. The river's not named. The forest isn't named. These hills aren't named, right? It's just, you are meant to fill in the blanks. Here's the keep itself. We get some handy-dandy little tables. All right, back to the caves themselves. They got a food storage room. They have a guard room. They have the room of the Kobold Chieftain, and they have a common chamber. A note here that Kobold losses will not be replaced, though injured Kobolds will heal. Oh, and they did give some guidance on restocking the dungeon. They basically said, hey, 1 to 4 weeks, so basically 1d4 weeks afterwards, if they're not trudging back through these caves, and maybe either survivors will come back or new monsters will come in. So you have the caves when the party leaves, potentially for extended periods of time. And the reason why they might leave for extended periods of time is because healing is really slow. If you have a lot of hurt PCs and you don't have a healing spell, remember clerics first level have no healing spells, so you are at the mercy of potions and natural healing. So if you have 6 hit points, they decide to spend a few more weeks getting equipment or trying to hire hirelings or whatever. So it is very possible that they could be gone for a couple of weeks. We have an Orc Lair. With a bunch of stuff in it. The Orc Leaders Room has a shield +1. It's got some notes about the room and the leader. If hard-pressed, the leader will wiggle behind the tapestries on the south wall and attempt to work the catch on the secret door to the south and go to the rival tribe for help. But his very life must be in great peril before he will do so. Adventurers can only spring this catch by rolling a 1 on a d6 twice in a row or having 2 characters do so simultaneously. I wonder why that is. They don't really explain how it works, but sure. Another point here is, right, it's clear that, hey, this guy's not fighting to the death. If it seems like he's going to lose, or if other things are happening and it looks like he's going to lose before he even gets a chance to fight, but it's not going to go well, then have him try to escape. Have him go get help. That's the much more interesting thing, too. right? Don't have them fight to death in that room for no reason. I really think that more of DMs should play creatures with a lot more dynamism than they do. Don't just stand in that room and just hack, die. You're in that room and you see the party comes in and they're overwhelming you, or then leave. Try to get other people. Sound the alarm. Run screaming. Try to make a lot of noise. Really try to shake it up. Force the party to have to do different things to deal with you. Just having it come down to hitting and killing is kind of the least interesting way to go. Here we have a DM's note. Orc losses cannot be replaced, but after an initial attack by adventurers, the males at location 10 will move 4 of their number into area 9. Arm these orcs with crossbows and lay in ambush for intruders. Ooh, that's clever. If the leader is slain, all surviving orcs from this locale will seek refuge with the tribe and the other tribe at sea. We're not looking. I can't see the map in front of me, but it's the other tribe. Taking everything of value and even of no value with them. And B will therefore be deserted. So if worse comes to worse, if you kill the leader, any survivors will go to the other tribe, and this area will just land vacant. Otherwise, they may plan ambushes for you. Good. Another way to shake it up, right? They were in that room. They were in one location, but now they're going to move. They've armed themselves maybe a little bit differently than they were before. And now they're going to be looking for the party to come back. Excuse me. Let's see. The Orc Lair. And that's another Orc Lair. Oops, we've got a Forgotten. I don't know why maybe it's just the printing that the font suddenly changed on me. Forgotten Room. Only the 2 orc leaders know of this place. They secretly meet here on occasion to plan cooperative ventures or discuss tribal problems. For although separate tribes are not exactly friendly, both leaders are aware of the fact that there is a strength in numbers. That's very true. A small table and 2 chairs are in the middle of the room. There is a wooden chest to one side which holds a bow, a quiver of 20 arrows, 2 swords, and 2 daggers. 2 shields are hung on the south wall. Okay, I don't need to read all that. There is some giant centipedes, which are always fun. So we got some other chambers. We have the other leader's room. Does he have his own secret door? Let's see what kind of treasures he got. Let's see, there's a bracelet of ivory worth 100 gold. There is, in a chest of drawers, there's a rope of climbing. A copper bowl. All right, so we got some stuff. And the same note, orc losses cannot be replaced. Then they'll basically do the opposite, right? They'll go to the other tribe if they are the ones that are attacked. Here we have the Goblin Lair, and we have some Wandering Goblins, 6. Only 3 hit points each, so chances are they'll go down to a single hit, maybe 2. But, you got 6. They can kind of gang up and just kind of pummel, and at first, second level, doesn't take much for a couple of goblins to break through. Would really put a hurting. Let's see, each will have a couple of silver pieces, D6. These are patrolling and carrying messages back and forth. They'll also be carrying several bags of fairly good foodstuffs. Not worth a whole lot, but you can eat it. So, yeah, maybe you can get some supplies off those guys. There's a couple of guard chambers and a common room. The Chieftain's room. Got some female goblins in there. It's got some good furniture. Tapestry with silver and gold threads worth 900 GP, but you got to cart it out of there. Get it all the way back to town. Nearby is a stand with a pewter bowl, which holds 273 silver and 321 copper. Oh man, the yawns are starting. That's a bad sign. Bad sign, friend. A storage chamber. If the adventurers stay in the chamber for more than one turn, a party of 4 hobgoblins will come through the secret door. Oh, that's kind of cool. It's a big, it's a bit of a set encounter, right? If they go in the storage chamber and either they go in there to rest or they go in there to take cover or hide, whatever, they can only do that for 10 minutes. Otherwise, hobgoblins are coming. Goblin losses also cannot be replaced. If they're being soundly defeated, the goblins will attempt to hide or flee east. Those who do so will go, just go from Area 17 to Area 23 and tell the hobgoblins what's up and join forces. So adjust accordingly, right? So there's another good sign. If the party is just, and this is one of those things that it's easy to forget. You're going through a dungeon, they're hitting room after room after room, and the default can often be each encounter is just waiting in the room. So if I had encounter room 10, 11, 12, and they each had creatures in it, when they hit room 10, 12, we're going to sit there again until the party gets there. This was saying is that, look, if the creatures in 10 are getting pummeled, they may try to flee to 11. Maybe they'll both flee to 12, and then this will change the encounter. Now, it makes everything more dynamic, which is generally what we want, right? We want these dynamic situations where things are happening and it feels fluid and it doesn't feel static. It's hard to do. You got to remember as a GM, that they're not in that room anymore. They're somewhere else. Now that the flavor text I might be reading for that room, it doesn't matter. It's different because the goblins aren't there anymore. They've left, all that kind of stuff. But if you can manage that, then it really adds a lot when it feels like these places are alive because things are moving around and things are adapting and reacting to what's happening and not just waiting like target dummies in their respective rooms for the party to come and try to kill them. Okay, here's the Ogre Cave. Persons entering this place will notice a strong, sour odor and then notice what appears to be a huge bear sprawled asleep in the southwestern part of the cave. This is nothing more than the skin of a huge bear, which the ogre killed and uses as a bed, making it more comfortable by heaping leaves underneath. The ogre sits in the eastern portion of his lair, and noise will certainly bring him ready to do battle. There you have it. Let's see, are there any other notes from this? If anyone offers him a greater... Oh, hold on a minute. Let me see. There's a fee. The ogre has grown wealthy by serving as a mercenary, generally on the side of the goblins and their occasional allies, the hobgoblins, which is... So that rumor was true. Although he has been bought by the orcs and the gnolls from time to time, he will rush to aid the goblins when they toss him the sack of coins. OC 18 above. Oh, I must have missed the part. So the goblins might try to get the ogre to fight them earlier when you're attacking them, if you're in that area. If anyone offers him a greater fee, one which he can actually see and feel, it is 90% likely that he will simply take it and the goblin's money too and return to his lair. This is touched upon in the white box, how you could try to run away from intelligent enemies by basically tossing valuables behind them. This is kind of similar, right? The goblins toss him a bag of gold. If you can meet and beat that offer, then he'll just go away. So there's another option for you to get him off the board, at least for a little while, because he's not leaving the caves, but he's going back to his cave. If intruders offer him a bribe of 20 more gold piece value, the ogre will be 90% likely to allow them to leave unmolested, but if he catches them again, he will attempt to kill them, whatever the offers. Hidden under a heap of old bones in the southern portion of his cave are 6 magic arrows plus 1, a potion of invisibility, and a magic scroll with 2 cleric spells, Cure Light Wounds, Hold Person. Cure Light Wounds, certainly handy. Not that Hold Person's not handy, but cures might be in short supply. Arrows plus 1 are nice, but man, I always end up holding those onto those things too long because I never want to spend them. I'm like, I got these only 6 plus 1 arrows. When do I spend it? You got to pick your spot. We have another Hobgoblin Lair, or maybe not another. It's the Hobgoblin Lair. They got a torture chamber / playroom / food storage. Well, that's quite a combo. But the merchant is here. A plump, half-dead merchant scheduled to be eaten tonight is in a special banquet. If he is rescued and returned to the keep, the guild will pay 100 guild status. No, sorry, will pay 100 gold piece reward, grant the rescuers honorary guild status, and exempt them for 1 year from any fees, dues, taxes, and the like, which the guild would normally collect. Well, we don't really know what those are, but that's cool. And another true rumor. There's an orc also. There's a man-at-arms. There's a normal female. The merchant's wife, turns out. And she'll give them a dagger +1 once she gets back to her room in the keep, if you can get her there. There's a crazy gnoll who will attack his rescuers if he's freed. And there's another man-at-arms. If you rescue the man-at-arms, they can join you for a year if an offer is made, and will only ask room and board. Just got to give them armor and weapons. So that's a good deal. You can get a couple of hirelings right here if you can just free them up. There's a common chamber, a guard room, an armory. We got some plate mail for men. They made more of a point in these older editions to size things, so it wasn't so easy. Like, oh, here's plate mail, it just magically fits whomever you give it to. So here they will say, hey, in this armory, a suit of man-sized plate mail, a suit of dwarf-sized plate mail, and then you got to figure it out. If you're an elf, there is no elf-sized plate mail. If you're an elf, you probably don't want to wear plate mail, but point being, it's not magically resizing to fit you. You might end up being in a situation where you want, oh man, I'd really love to have that plate mail, and it doesn't fit. So I would usually have something where you could take it back to an armor and they could kind of refit it for you, which again would take them probably a little bit of time, hence why you might be gone for weeks. If you're doing a lot of this stuff, you're healing up, you're getting fitted for armor, blah, blah, blah. But you could decide yourself for your game whether that extra crunch is worth anything or you find it's just a pain in the butt. Because yes, it can be unfair to certain individuals in your group if there's not something sized for them. Whoops. There's a storeroom. We got another guard room. We got the Hobgoblin Chief's quarters this time. So he's got an iron box, another poison potion, a wand of paralyzation with 7 charges left. That's hidden in a heap of kindling wood. That'd be a hard ass. That's where your detect magic comes in handy. You'd have to be pretty either comprehensive or wily to dig through the kindling. Definitely wouldn't be my first choice. Okay, we have a Shunned Cavern. It's got a horrible stench. We have an empty gallery. It's got some money in it. A shallow pool. There's something nasty in there. Let's see. Gray oozes there. Lovely. There's an owlbear's den. Which has a protection from undead scroll in it. There's a bugbear lair. That's more comprehensive. It's got a guard room. It's got the chieftain's room. It's got some healing potions in there. There's a +1 hand axe in there. There's a spoils room with a +1 shield in there. So you hear a lot of +1, and back in the day you got a lot more of those. This is a beginning adventure, and if you play it very efficiently, you can walk out with a lot of magic gear. I mean, low-level magic gear, but still magic gear nonetheless. But a lot of it is kind of spread out, and you have to hit it all, and you could easily go through this and not hit any of those rooms. And then some of the rooms you hit, you don't happen to look in the right spot, and because you only have your magic user maybe has 1 spell for a day, and they may not know detect magic, then if you really don't go through and check everything, you're going to miss it. But of course, checking everything in these circumstances has its own drawback, because then you're attracting more and more monsters. So you got to kind of pick your spots. Common room, guard room, slave pen. Who's in the slave pen? 2 kobolds, 1 orc, chained to the wall. Oh, there's a 4th level fighter, though, in one of the slave pens. Maybe these are their ransoming pits, where they've taken the people that either they're trying to get a ransom out of, or they tried to and failed to get payment. This is where they're here to just die or dance for the amusement of their captors. There are 2 bugbears that are out hunting, and they'll return with a human corpse and 83 gold the day after the adventurers first enter the bugbear lair. They'll be placed on guard duty at 35. If appropriate, and their statistics are the same as the guards there. Bugbears will stay in the place until all are dead, save the chieftain, who will seek help from the Minotaur. Here we have the Minotaur. The labyrinth. There's a DM note here. You may allow players to find a few low-value coins, normal equipment, weapons, or armor at the entrance. After 30 feet past the cave mouth, a spell of direction confusion, which is, they say in parenthetically, a special spell, will begin to function, so start to misdirect them by naming incorrect directions, i.e. southeast instead of northeast, east instead of west, etc. Don't worry about calling the same passage as a different direction should they travel over the same route twice. That's the effect of the magic on them. Oh boy. You may wish to allow the mapping character a secret saving throw every couple of turns, a 19 or 20, indicating that the effect has been thrown off. And within here, we've got sturges, we've got fire beetles, more fire beetles, then the Minotaur itself. It's got a +1 spear. Let's see. It's got 35 hit points, so that's going to be tough on a small party. He strikes first. He may very well take someone down. He's got either 4 to 9 damage or 1 to 6, 1 to 6. 1 to 6, 1 to 6. What was that? I think that's, so you get, one is the spear and one is what, horns and mouth? Probably have to look at the monster manual entry, or not the monster manual for this, because that's first edition, though it would work really just fine, but just the box set to get the monster rules. We have some gnolls. -1 sword that's cursed. Always like the cursed stuff. Got elven boots in the chief's quarters. And here we get the shrine to evil chaos. A faint foul draft issues from the 20-foot wide cave mouth, which is the entrance to this place. The worn path through the copse of obscenely twisted and oddly bloated trees gives those approaching along its length an eerie sense of unease. And as soon as they enter the cave mouth, a dim awareness of lurking evil will pervade their senses. Red strata intertwines with bulging black veins running through the hewn rock. Bulging black veins beyond the entrance. The wide corridors and chambers are deathly still. A faint groaning sound and a shrill piping may be occasionally heard, barely perceptible even if the party is absolutely silent and listening. The floors are smooth and worn by the tread of countless feet of the worshippers at this grim place. The footsteps of intruders will echo alarmingly in these vaulted halls, +2 chance of being surprised. And extreme care must be taken to muffle such sounds if the party has any hopes of remaining undetected until the moment of their choosing. Continual noise will bring a group of zombie guards to investigate. Ooh, zombie guards. The zombie guards are 8 zombies. These are ghastly monsters. These ghastly monsters are clad in filthy red and black striped uniforms. Each carries a cleaver-like battle axe. Each wears an amulet of protection from turning, so attempts by a cleric to turn them are made as if they were ghouls rather than zombies. Ouch, that's rough. Let's see. Boulder-filled passage. What's it say? There's some bolded text here. You have the option of allowing this passage to lead to the outside somewhere to the southwest of the Caves of Chaos, or you may choose to have it go all the way to the Cave of the Unknown. If you opt for the latter case, you must, of course, prepare an appropriate underground area map and stock it with monsters and treasures. Of course. Hall of Skeletons, more protection from turning. So now they turn as zombies rather than skeletons. And there's a chair where you can pry some stones off of once you've dispatched the skeletons. There's a guard room with more guards. There's an acolyte chamber. The leader wears an amulet of protection from good. Now we get to the Chapel of Evil Chaos. Not good chaos, evil chaos. Let's see, there's a lot going on here. And boy, I want to talk about walls of text. There's no paragraph breaks here. Let's see, this place is of red stone, the floor being a mosaic checkerboard of black and red. The south wall is covered by a huge Tapestry which depicts a black landscape, barren trees, and unidentifiable but horrible black shapes in silhouette, possibly demons of some sort. Holding aloft a struggling human, a gray sky is torn by wisps of purple clouds, and a blood moon with a skull-like face on it leers down upon the scene. 4 black pillars support the dome ceiling, some 25 feet overhead. Between these columns, just in front of the tapestry, is a stone altar of red-veined black rock, rough-hewn and stained brown with dried blood. Upon it are 4 ancient bronze vessels, a shallow bowl, a pair of goblets, and an ewer, a vase-shaped pitcher. They are also blood-stained, but obviously worth a great deal of money. And it's 1,000 GP for each, and 2,000 GP for each. Oh, each cup is 1,000 GP, and 2,000 GP for each of the other ones. But these are relics of evil, and any character possessing them will not part with them or sell them, nor allow others to handle them. So it's kind of got a Ring of Power from Lord of the Rings thing going on. And what else we've got here? Okay, so they can make some saving throws. Let's see. If a detect evil spell is cast upon these items, they will glow an ugly purple, and all good characters will feel instant loathing for them. If the character who has taken them has a dispel magic and then a bless cast upon him or her, there is a 60% chance of removing the evil on the first day, 50% on the second day, 40% on the third, 30 on the fourth, 20 on the fifth, and 10 on the sixth. Otherwise, nothing will be able to save the character. Bum, bum, bum. Do not open the book. A little mummy shout out there, but yeah. Don't touch that stuff. But of course, someone's going to touch it because they're adventurers, and this is exactly the loot they're looking for. All right, more. You can go to the Adept's Chamber. More guys with protection from good on them. They have cause light wounds they can use. They have light spell, cause fear. Well, they got a hall of undead warriors. 20 skeletons, 20 zombies. Upon striking of the great bell at number 58, which is right below this, the room description, is right below this. The skeletons will issue forth from the south door of the place and march into the temple to line the south wall, while the zombies plod out of the north exit to line the north wall of the temple. If intruders enter this room, if the intruders enter room 57, which is the room we're talking about, are in the passage to the temple or are within the temple itself, these undead warriors will attack. Proper garments and amulets will prevent attack unless the head cleric commands the undead to do so. They have no treasure. So they're going to get you unless you are disguised, basically. We get to the Temple of Evil Chaos itself. Another big wall of text. Man, I don't miss these. Give me some line breaks. Give me something. There's a lot going on. Let's see. There's the Iron Bell. I'm trying to see if there's an important part, but really I don't want to. Let's see. Shapeless forms of purple, yellow, and green will dance and sway on the western wall, and if anyone looks at them for more than a moment, they must save versus spells or be mesmerized into chanting a hymn to chaotic evil. Should 3 or more voices be so raised, the Iron Bell will sound automatically by magic. But even one such chant will alert the guards of the head cleric. Zombie guards will enter here in 3 rounds after entry, even if the party is quiet. There you have it. So you got this mesmerizing tapestry. You can make you start singing. Three of you sing. Something bad's going to happen immediately, but really either way, something bad's happening. You just have more time if you happen to not get stuck in that mesmerized state. Chambers of the Evil Priest. Let's see the 3rd level, wears plate mail +1, has a shield +1, wears a protection from good amulet, has a snake staff. It's got cause light wounds, cause fear, detect, and he's got a scroll with detect magic, hold person, silence 50-foot radius, and on top of it he's got a potion of gaseous form. Save that for escape, which is exactly what they say, which he will use to escape through the boulder-filled corridor if all else fails. There's a guest chamber, a torture chamber with a torturer. There's a crypt with a white in it. Sword +2 he's got in there. Protection from undead. And a helm of alignment change. Ooh, that could be interesting. And there's a silver dagger that's ornamental, worth 800 gold, but not magic of any kind. There's a storage chamber with a gelatinous cube. And there's also a wand of enemy detection with 9 charges left in there. And there's a cell. Ooh, there's a Medusa. Wow, I've forgotten about that. There's a cell with a prisoner at it, but it's actually a Medusa that's recently taken by the guards. Oh, she's only got 4 HD, 20 HP. But I wouldn't want to face her at first level, even knowing that. Excuse me. So if you get bitten by one of the asps in her hair or attacked, you're going to save versus poison or die. So yeah, even though she doesn't have a lot of hit points, she just got to hit you once. If you fail to save, you die. Persons looking at the creature, including those fighting her from the front, must save versus being turned to stone by the Medusa. But the priest is actually going to sacrifice this Medusa, but maybe she'll never know. She does have a stone of flesh vial if you need it. And that's it. All right, there it is. Now, I did zoom through some of the descriptions, but only because I find myself short on time and I wanted to kind of get through everything. If you've watched some of the other read-throughs, right, this does not have the narrative thrust and very, tightly controlled push through. Whereas if you play through Curse of Strahd, it really has kind of a path that you're taking that's just sort of pushing you through all the time, driving you deeper, forcing you to go deeper and deeper and deeper until you confront Strahd and finish that storyline. There's none of that here. The expectation here is you're going to go back to the caves multiple times. Dynamic stuff's going to happen. Eventually you will, by hook or by crook, you will hopefully get to this point where you get to the temple of the great evil and you vanquish those evils. But there's not a particular setup for pushing you through there. Let's see, he's got some non-player characters, just some notes. Designing floor plans. That's kind of interesting. It's more for the keep. Tips for the players. It often helps for beginning players to have advice on how to play D&D. Yeah, sure. Most importantly, players should be organized and cooperative. Yes. Cooperation should also be given to the DM. It's also good. Planning is another important part of play. Caution is also necessary and part of planning. Yes. You got to be cautious. Above all, a player must think. The game is designed to challenge the minds and imaginations of the players. Those who tackle problems and use their abilities, wits, and new ideas will succeed more often than fail. I agree with that. The challenge of thinking is a great deal of the fun of the game. I agree with that too. So getting back to what I was saying, something like Curse of Strahd, which is obviously a much later module, the focus is really on a narrative push from A to B to C. Very linear. That's the word I was really looking for before. Very linear, very much. You're going to get swept along and naturally lead you. And in fact, you get to these parts of the castle and it would actually close up behind you. So you really couldn't backtrack. So everything was pushing you to the conclusion. This one, the setup is very loose. You're at this keep. You have this general motivation of we need to get treasure, we need to get loot. For whatever reason, if you're playing this game, if you were playing it back in the day, you kind of knew that, or you knew that the key to leveling up to getting stronger was getting loot. Much more than killing things, it was getting loot. So you're looking at your goal in the game is, well, where can I get the best loot? Whereas the loot place, that's the Caves of Chaos, so we got to find it. Maybe you got rumors about the merchant or about these other things, so that kind of drives you forward. And then just as you're interacting with the caves, you sort of can find this stuff. Depending on how you played it, you could definitely have parties who don't get everything out of the caves. They don't explore all the rooms. Maybe they get other ideas. Maybe you get other ideas as a GM, and so you throw things out there, and some of those things appeal to the party, and they go off. And that's fine. There's not an expectation that you need to finish it, right? It can kind of be there. Barovia, the way that's said, is you're kind of entering a magic demi-plane, and you really can't leave until you finish it. So the emphasis is on getting from A to Z. But keep on the Borderlands, much also like Isle of Dread, is a lot more kind of open as to what are your goals and what are you trying to do. I think ideally maybe they hope that you're going to get these clues about what's happening at the caves and that will inspire you to kind of go and stop it. Maybe you find it by accident. Maybe you're told about it somehow, some of the rumors, and you're trying to find a rumor. Maybe that's that they have that added bit of the Castellan could maybe give you a mission. If you're at a point, they say, oh, well, here's a mission. If you want to get access to me, this is how you can get in. But it really very much, it's a microcosm, right? They mentioned that, hey, the keep is a microcosm. It's basically a village. It's got all this stuff in it. Really, this whole thing is kind of a microcosm of the kind of adventures that it's built to do, that the game is kind of built around at this point in its development, which is going on adventures. And they're really adventures when they mention it in a lot of these games. They're really talking about sessions. So your sessions, going on these adventures because you're going to kind of go out in dangerous places, come back, go out in dangerous places, come back, go out in dangerous places, and come back, and repeat that. And you are enough self-motivated that the Caves of Chaos don't really have to give you a ton of extra motivation. You are self-motivated by these drives to get stronger, get better, raise up levels, and so you're naturally going to do this without the caves having to kind of raise the ante on you every time. The caves are kind of just the caves, right? They are what they are. If you leave them alone, they'll tend to kind of restock with monsters. As a GM, you could obviously take the stuff that's happening in that temple and build in sort of a ticking clock for it. And by ticking clock, I mean that maybe if they don't stop something by a certain time, something bad will happen, and you can lean in that. You could add rumors and things, but really it's up to you. The module is not doing that for you. The module in some ways, it really isn't a module at all. It's really a mini setting. The mini setting consisting of 2 bits. One bit is the base, or maybe it's 3 bits. One is your home base, the keep. The second one is a small wilderness area, and the third one is this zoomed in area on the caves. And other than the fact that the keep has people who are interested in what's happening in the caves, a la the merchant and his wife, or the castellan trying to bring law to this chaotic place, it's really all there as a canvas for you to work in. And so depending on how you hit that, you could either see that and be excited by that because of all the stuff you can do that it's freeing you up to do. It's not putting nothing really needs to happen. Or you could look at it and miss the fact that there is no narrative throughput to this. There is no, hey, you go do that, and this leads to that, and this leads to that, and this leads to that down the line. There's none of that. It's just, here are these caves. The caves are there. Bad things are happening in the caves, but there's also treasure there. You guys we're assuming are good guys, or at least neutral guys, and you're going to hear about this stuff. If you're looking for work, if you're looking for missions, you're looking for rumors, they're all going to concern the caves. So naturally, you're going to want to find those caves and bring them to bear, right, for your treasure. So it's definitely an interesting way to look at it. I think I always was as a kid, and now I look at it, the nostalgia is always just that just kind of big world, which I always like better than kind of the Ravenloft take, because it felt like even though it might be giving you might see that map of Barovia, there's nowhere to go. All that map was just kind of there for nothing. Now, not that there's a lot going on in the map for the Caves of Chaos, but it really did feel like you could, if your GM was willing, just walk off the edge of that map and go into parts unknown if you wanted. You had a lot of maneuverability in there, and you could really play with these different things, like how much, you read all that you'd hear and at the time hearing from different people who were playing, and then later on maybe you're reading about it, and then now looking on internet forums about how different people tackled it, how different people handled those caves, and you get all these different ideas, all these different takes, all these different things. Oh, you can't believe what we did. We got the goblins to fight these guys. Or we bought the ogre, or we charmed the ogre. We got lucky with a charm spell or something, and the ogre was following us around and doing our bidding. And this, that, and the other. And you could paint that canvas however you like, as a party, as a gaming group, as a GM. And that's what I always found really kind of fascinating about it, is how you could get all these different adventures out of it. So, but it's late, and I got to get to bed, but that is, in capsule form, that is Keep on the Borderlands as far as how it holds up, and it is what it is. It is very simple. It is very much, like I said, that canvas. So I wouldn't say it's disappointing. I think it's pretty much what I remember to be, which is basically like a whole bunch of hooks for you to put in what you want. The caves was full of all these monsters that are, why are they all kind of held together? I think it's really all about some kind of force of chaos kind of binding all these things together, but you can have a lot of fun figuring out why they're there. The keep, the hermit, all these, the castellan, you kind of have these characters that you have to sort of make your own, but if you take that on, you could have a lot of fun with that. It could really be the starting area for your campaign world, or you could slot it into whichever world you have. So it's got lots of possibilities, but it is also kind of bare bones. It's also very much a work that you have to kind of put your own work into to make it happen. So that's it. Anyway, I gotta go. I'll talk to you later.